question that I ask here is, what did Hegel mean by dialectics? In the most practical, simple terms I could think of, dialectical logic is the constant interplay of form and content. The form of something is always changing the content of something, and vice versa. We have a conception of goodness in our mind, which is always getting more and more complex as we experience more things that are both good and bad. Our actions, then, are equally affected by this. This back and forth mutual modification, interpenetration, is the absolute essence of what dialectics is. Dialectics is an extremely profound understanding of reality, and its primary purpose is that it does away with the simplistic positivism of people like Occam or John Locke and his successors. An object that we may perceive is an arbitrary collection of qualities that itself needs to be explained. A fact never exists by itself. In isolation, it's completely nonsensical. It's a fact only in that it's part of a system of beliefs. A so-called simple fact implies logic. It implies our arsenal of concepts under which we understand and communicate it. Any object is seen differently in different times in history. They're seen differently by people with different priorities and educations, and for different purposes. All thought is based on three things. There's the object. There's us, the knower. And then the context in which it's known. We exist in a specific period of time, and when we perceive something, we're making a judgment about it. We're imposing a set of concepts with which we're born and raised, intellectually speaking. But an object, even if it isn't arbitrary, can't be seen in its entirety, since anything we perceive is a complex set of qualities. And whether it's natural development or social development, it's a product of history. We focus on a specific aspect of a thing, usually how we can use it. But all this together forms a context, intellectual and historical, that are brought to bear on what we think we know. So the empiricist sees something. They're all similar. We take a fruit like oranges. We see a bunch of them, and we notice they look a lot alike. So over time we develop the concept of an orange. If I see three of them, I know immediately that they're all orange. But I haven't said anything there. I can't end there, because now I have three things. I have the concept of orange that unifies any perception. I see three objects. I'm really seeing one thing, conceptually speaking. So when I see an orange, I realize immediately that there are two things. There's the individual fruit, and then there's a concept that permit me to use the word orange to describe more than one of them, because they look very much alike. But the third is me, the knower. I'm also based on many historical and social determinants. But even the orange itself, you can't separate that from the ecosystem, our need for it, our need for vitamin C, oxygen, sunlight. Therefore, the object is never just the object. It's a part of the all. Perceiving any object, therefore, it forces us to say that this X that we're looking at, including us as knowers, it didn't bring itself into being. We didn't bring ourselves into being. Our minds and the object that we're trying to study exist as part of a larger whole. Objects are delusions, at least when we first perceive them. Our minds pick and choose what aspects of the X we want to see. And it usually just follows the cultural bias of the age. The object is both at the same time a single thing and a bundle of other properties. Only individual things exist. The problem with that is individual things aren't individual things. There has to be an essence, so to speak, around which a property can cohere, or nothing can exist at all. So at an absolute minimum, when you perceive something, you see many things. You see properties you think are out there. You understand its context. You understand its essence and your own mental state. At a minimum, the last thing you see is the object that you think is out there. You take the simplest of objects. Let's say a man's wallet. The truth is that all of human history is contained in it. You think of how it comes into existence, the production methods, mass production. How long has that taken to perfect? They require tremendous development in physics and mathematics for these machines to function. The labor that goes into it is rationalized and standardized. It's a result of human economic history that takes efficiency as its single most important determinant of production. What about its materials? They're shipped from elsewhere. They could be imported. Well, that implies a mass transport system, international trade even. You have a leather, for example, leather wallet taken from cows, and it's dried in a very complex, standardized way. But that couldn't exist unless civilization had discovered that method. Then you think of all the social restrictions, how it's used, where we put it, how we view it, where it's stored, what we put in it, what we don't put in it. So what's a wallet? It's nothing less than the summation of the development of human civilization. Because every aspect of the development of civilization is to be found in it, in one form or another. Nothing that exists by the hand of man exists outside of any civilizational matrix. But even natural objects, like trees, they require the same method except with natural history rather than social and economic history. And the two are not separate. There's a lot of natural history that goes into the creation of a wallet. So to say that a wallet is just something that we have that holds money and cards is ridiculous. It's a complete falsehood. So we see it in the simple form as just some utilitarian thing that we stick money in. That's only the image of the thing, not the actual thing. It's insanely incomplete. We don't know what it is. The reality is completely different. So then what is dialectics? It's supposed to unmask what is real that hides behind images. An image isn't real. It is what we need at the moment, though. The concept of alienation is to live among these images believing that they're real. We know something in a slow ascent to everything.